Welcome. This is Will at Work. I'm Kevin. Today we've got the Fujitsu FM Towns Marty. And this system really kind of fascinates me. If you've never seen it before, it's unusual, and they can be had, but they're fairly expensive, especially to have one that's working like this. Now this is sometimes referred to as the Marty 2. It's no different than the original release. Came out, basically the Marty was released in Japan only, and it was a consoleized version of a computer called the FM Towns, which I'll explain in a moment. And they released it in white, and it was fairly expensive. It was about $700, and it didn't sell very well. And they then came out with the Marty 2 here in the gray color, which had a lower price, but by the time it launched, they had also pretty much decided to abandon it. It did end up with a fair number of titles, maybe somewhere around 50 or less, but it could play many of the FM Towns titles for the computer, although if you needed the keyboard you would have to buy a keyboard for this, and it didn't take a standard PS2 style keyboard. You had to get an FM Towns keyboard, but it did work on this. It did have a port for that on this unit. It also had built-in karaoke ability because it could take a microphone, and it was one of the first systems released that could boot directly from CD, much in the way of, say, Sega CD or TurboGrafx CD, Turbo CD. But the Marty was, not an expansion to a different system. It was sort of standalone. What's interesting about this is when this launched back in the early 90s, all through like the late 80s and early 90s, before PlayStation and Saturn and everything, most computers and game systems ran on Motorola or copied Motorola chips. So basically your 8-bit systems like your Commodore 64 and your Nintendo NES ran on like a 6502 processor, which was essentially a copy of the 6800 processor from Motorola, just in a sort of reduced cost design. And when you got into the 16-bit era, so Commodore Amigas, Sega Genesis, that sort of thing, they ran on the 68,000, the 16-bit processor. I think the Super NES ran on some variant of a 16-bit version of the 6502 still. But, and this was pretty common, and I believe that Apple computers ran on the 6800 series of processors, etc. And so Intel chips, back in this time period, was around the 386 era. Intel 386 chips were not in game systems, really. And they were only really used for computers, and they sort of, were expensive maybe, and so they just didn't end up in game systems, or they had features that just didn't line up with the cost-benefit value of having them inside a game system. And in this really early sort of time period, when the 386 was launched, that's kind of when gaming really started to take off on the PC. Because if you managed to get a 386 computer and you got yourself a decent VGA or Super VGA graphics card, no 3D at this point really, just, standard VGA or Super VGA, and you could get like an 8-bit Sound Blaster card. And if you put all those together, you would have a gaming experience that developers were kind of aiming for, right? There were a number of different sound cards. Nobody knew that Sound Blaster would become the winner at that point, and there was some differences in, memory and all that sort of thing. We really didn't see CD-ROM at that point. CD-ROM kind of came, later as we transitioned over to like the 486 processors. It was kind of more of a just sort of a gradual thing where people could afford to buy a computer and get a 486 style computer and get a CD-ROM in it. And when Windows 95 then eventually takes off, then computers really start to sell, and that's of course in the the mid 90s. But PCs were starting to make headway with gaming. Now, FM Towns was a computer made by Fujitsu, and it was sort of like a standardized. It started off, I think, with a 386, and it was sort of a standardized design. So it was essentially, a 386 processor and a RAM and some sort of a soundboard and some graphics capability there. And it was, kind of expensive, but so were like 386 computers like I described. Like, that's why PCs took a while to get into homes, because if you wanted like that PC that I described, it would cost you $2,000. And if you wanted something with a lot of hard drive space and all the bits with the monitor and the printer and everything that people would buy, it could set you back $3,000 back then. And that's in yesterday's money. I mean, it's crazy money that you're talking about. So that's why you had this sort of video game consoles being cheaper, or you had the sort of the Amiga, Atari STs, and other more simple computers that were just more cost effective, but maybe didn't have the performance of the PC, although some of that's arguable at that time period. But most of the off-the-shelf units tended to have lower performance than some $3,000 PC. So the FM Towns was 386, and therefore the Marty is the 386 as well. And what's interesting about that is that the other console that eventually comes along that runs on Intel processors is the original Xbox. So this is sort of like its sibling, although much earlier. And I find it fascinating because that was a time when, there were a lot of 16-bit games that came out for the PC, and a lot of those didn't make it to consoles because they required a mouse or some level of memory and storage that the cartridges at that time just weren't going to give you. So there was a number of good games, and they were easy, I suppose, to port over to the Marty, since it had sort of a dedicated graphics and sound capability. But one of the problems in Japan with this system was the fact that the FM Towns computers were mainly used in schools, apparently, in Japan. And so it had sort of it was made for kids kind of image. But ironically, the Marty has a number of adults-only titles, that were made for it, because it could do some video type thing. And, so there's a number of those kinds of titles for the system. So what's interesting about it is it has this, it comes with this, standard D-pad. It's basic, but it's serviceable. It works fine. It's got 2 buttons and then 2 select and run. Probably could have used 4 or 6 buttons to be a little bit more with the times of that, But like I said, you can expand it with a keyboard. It's a standard 9-pin. It does have the CD-ROM here. It's single speed as far as I can tell. And it also has a floppy drive on the side. So you could boot something from a floppy or from the disk. And you could also write, and this would be used as storage for, saving your games, etc. It does have RCA and Super out, so you can hook it up to a normal screen. And like I said, it can support keyboard and that sort of thing. Now, one thing I will say about this is that if you look into the history of that whole thing with systems that were 16-bit and 8-bit and 32-bit and 64-bit, that was like a big thing right there in the 90s because people were trying to differentiate themselves. And when Commodore eventually released the CD32 in Europe, the CD32 was labeled as the first 32-bit game system. And people had said, no, it's not true. The Marty is. The Marty is the first 32-bit game system. And for the longest time, I used to believe that. But after doing some research, this is not a 32-bit system. The way they were, and I don't even think Fujitsu did this, I think it was other people, but the way that people determined that this was a 32-bit system was because it uses a 386SX processor, which has a 32-bit, instructions and processing, but it still uses a 16-bit data bus. And what that means is that when you write applications for it, games, you're writing them in 16-bit. So it's running 16-bit games. It's not running 32-bit titles. It doesn't matter what the processor does on the inside. If that's how we calculated things, well, the 6800 processor that was inside the Sega Genesis or the Commodore Amiga and many other things is also a 32-bit, 16-bit processor. So the Marty is a 16-bit system. It's not 32-bit as it has a 16-bit bus, and that's really what matters. Commodore, their CD32 system ran on a 68020 processor. It was like a 680 EC20, which basically just means that the EC just meant that it only addresses 24-bit worth of memory or something like that. So it just made it so that it would only access, like, I forget what it is exactly, if it's like 2 megabytes or something like that of direct accessible memory, or 3 megabytes or something. It was just a lower cost thing, but the chip itself has a 32-bit bus. So if you gave a crap about the whole 32-bit, 16-bit thing, Commodore 64 or Commodore CD32 was the first 32-bit console, not this. Now, that being said, a lot of those things don't necessarily even matter. Like I was talking about earlier, you had say the 6502 processor that was inside, say, the NES or the Commodore 64. So let's say it was inside the NES and it ran at 1 megahertz. And then you said, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to get we're going to go 16-bit now. We're going to get the 68000 processor, and that's going to run at, say, 7 megahertz or something. And you would think, well, that's 7 times faster, but it's actually not, because there's these processing stages, and it has 7 stages, so it really kind of has the same processing power as a 1 megahertz machine, although there's a difference there between 1 and 8. But the thing is that a lot of people don't really understand that well. And when you were going back and comparing, say, the Sega Genesis, which I think ran the original one before the CD drive, I think it ran at oh man, I'm going off the top of my head and I don't even think it's true. I think it ran at 7 megahertz or 8 megahertz or something like that. Maybe 12. I can't remember. I think the CD drive ran at 12. But anyway, it just bear with me here. Let's just say 7. And then the Super NES came out, and it had that 16-bit 6502 or variant thereof, and it ran, at a some lower megahertz number, like 2 megahertz or something. And then, so if people just were comparing the two from the outside, you'd be like, oh, well, this one runs at 2 megahertz and this one runs at 7 megahertz. But it really kind of depends on how long that pipeline is. The pipeline's longer in the Genesis. So you end up not having the same performance gain that you think you would have, etc. So that's just something to know about this. Like, the bits don't always matter. Where the bits kind of actually mattered more is, like, 16-bit sound is obviously superior to 8-bit sound. You can hear the difference. But also it's just with memory addressing, right? So this system here, the Marty, has 2 megs of RAM, and so it only really needs to be 16-bit. You could have a very fast 16-bit system. It's accessing a 16-bit or 2 megabytes of RAM because that's all the addressing is going to be able to utilize. That's just like with a 32-bit system. I believe it's like, what, 4 gigabyte or something? So it's like that's all that a 32-bit system can use is like 4 gigabytes of RAM. I'm not saying 2 megabytes is 16-bit maximum. I can't remember exactly what it was. But my point is that since you're not going to be going to, like with a system like this, to 4 gigabytes of RAM, then 16-bit's enough. And of course, later on, when graphics cards and things got better, it was important to at least have a 24-bit graphics card, because that would give you all like 16 million colors. And eventually, of course, it was easier to go from like 16 to 32-bit. So 32-bit graphics cards became the thing. And then, the number of colors on screen and things that we deal with these older systems just didn't matter anymore. Anyway. Still, all said and done, very kind of cool system this is, because it plays old PC games, essentially. And it's a consoleized PC. Which we didn't see, and it has a lot of games that were written for the PC on it. Not a ton, but there's many. And had there been like more support for it, and perhaps if it was sold in America and if the price would have been lower, it might have been fairly successful consoleizing the PC and getting a lot of those PC games at homes, because like I said, PCs were really expensive. So we're going to look at a batch of games for this. I have a whole bunch, and we'll see what the experience is like. Obviously, it's from Japan. I do have a bunch of games that are in English, but I also have some unknown ones, and so we'll take a look at them and see if they work and how well this system works. So let's switch over to the video side and see what we got. Here we go. Okay, Battle Chess. This won't be very exciting, but see if it works. It's kind of the whole point of the show, right? Will it work? That's what we're doing. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at CDRs here. So if they work, more power to you. Okay. Blue? That would be kind of dumb, right? I gotta touch the square. Then it loads. This game was really popular when it first came out. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's just chess with some animation. It's primitive in today's world, but it was novel when it was first released, and a lot of people liked the animations that were out of the system or whatever. Now, of course, this is loading everything off of CD, so it's a little bit slow. People did have hard drives back then. They were small hard drives, but hard drives nonetheless. It wouldn't be unusual to have like a 150 megabyte hard drive or something. Okay. don't know what it's doing. It's just choking on. It's like spinning. I kind of want to see one death scene here. Come on. Come on. Don't lose the hand. Slow ass CD drive. Why did it all of a sudden just get slow, you know? It was working all right a minute ago. All right, well, we'll skip this one because it's just not doing anything. I'll pause the... So this is Beast 3. Birdie Soft made it. I think it's Japanese only. So, not sure what we're in for here. Probably some porn. No idea what's going on. Oh. Why has he got no shirt on? And she's dressed up like some Victorian maid with purple hair. Crazy 1990s Japanese story game. I'm gonna hit the button. Does hitting the button do anything? Let's see. Oh. Just pick the top one. If that was me choosing what's next or something and we go to more of this. Uh-oh. Probably getting kind of risky here. I don't think there's a game here. I think this is just like some sort of... I got an idea where it's going to. It's probably not going to a good place, especially for YouTube. So we're going to kind of kill it here, and I'll pause it. We'll move on to the next one. Beast 3. What happened to Beast 1 and 2?
I will show you 12 cards. Every card was...
This is CG Syndicate, Volume 1, or CG Syndicate 1. Looks like a full motion video game of...
Are you ready?
Well... card game, maybe? Could go in the wrong direction, though. Like the last freaking thing we just looked at. Let's see. Full motion video segments. in the early days were always too long. People were just like trying to amaze people with the video stuff, and spent way too much time on it. Oh, what's going on?
First try.
I don't even know what we're playing. Okay. Let's get rid of that one. We don't want that card. What is going on? Is it the space shuttle? That's a trip. I have a feeling maybe this is just like a series of like CG, demos with some weird card picking beginning or something. It's weird that it has that kind of mesh, almost like you're looking at everything behind like a screen or something. And then what? I can pick a different card, and then something else happens. Another animation of some sort. Let's just see if I'm right about that.
My name is Lisa Norpoint. I will act as your dealer today.
You are selling your soul to me. Every time you pick a card,
Every card
you
will
grow closer to death. And soon,
they are all friends.
you will be under my command.
The choice
I will
number-
order you to begin the hatchet murders
Which one would you like to choose?
in your hometown.
Are you ready?
But first, I need you to pick another card. Oh my god, we gotta watch her like... Come on, woman. It's gonna take all day. Whoever this woman is, they dressed her up in this outfit and had her do these cards. Do you think she ever played this? Like, she ever, had a Marty or an FM Towns and, even saw this? Probably not. Magic. All right, so let's pick this one. Okay, not in the... And then we're going to probably see some other CG animation, and then we'll kill it and move on to an actual game. Yep, so far nothing. Just a black screen. Oh, Tutankhamun. All right, let's move on. I'll pause it and then we'll get to an actual game here. All right, this one's called Evolution. Oh, looks like I gotta fly Star Wars style. Try not to get hit by asteroids and walls and stuff. Ouch. Oh, I got a laser pointer. What do you guys think about that? Somebody made this game back in the day and they were like, we are going to be so rich. this game comes out, everybody's going to want to play this Evolution game. Or what do I know? Maybe they made $1 million on this. No idea. Very calming music. Oh. Ah, the simplicity of the old school tunnel games. I don't know. Was this a thing? I don't think so. Oh, game over, thank God. Yeah. So this disc is called Excellent 10, and it looks like it contains 10 different games. It comes up with a little, very basic file menu. Select display mode, underscan. You can change CD. I'm not changing anything. Looks like this one's Paradise. Push start. Shooting Towns. Well, that doesn't seem to do anything. Just game over. I can shoot, but it basically almost doesn't do anything. Woo! Alright, that sucked. I'll show you what the loading thing looks like in the menu here. And that's your splash screen. FM Towns Marty! Marty! And then we're going into Towns OS. This could run Windows as well, but the Towns OS was cheaper and everybody used it. And then we have all these games. Let's look at this D-Rally. Shooting Towns. What does that say? Make that up. Amorphous presents. The Desert Rally. Rally. Oh, I can honk at stuff. Kind of like the same game engine, just with cars, right? Stupid. All right, let's move on to something else. I'll pause this. I guess boxing must have been popular because here we have Final Blow. From Ving. Licensed from Tato. 1990. Where were you in 1990? I was still playing Amiga games. 16-bit style. It's loading. Slow going. Of course, if you had a hard drive, these things pretty much would load instantly. But, you know, coming from the world of floppy disk, CD isn't too bad. I guess I'm Dynamite Joe. I think I played this. I think I even played this on a console on this show.
Definitely played this once in my life. Might have even played it on the Wii.
Right. Give him the left. That's it. Go get it. That's it. Go get it.
Oh,
1, 2, 3,
yeah.
4, 5, 6, 7.
Shake it off.
Give him the left. Give him the left. 1,
Take that.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right. Right.
There you go. Dynamite Joe wins. All right, pausing this one. We'll move to the next one. This one is Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. Back with LucasArts was the thing, making games. It is interesting looking back at like these 16-bit era games on the PC at this time, and there really weren't substantially different than what you would find on, say, the Sega Genesis or the Super NES of that time. Slightly more colors, right? I mean, at least from the Genesis, Nintendo could do 256 colors. You didn't have CD quality sound unless you were doing like the Sega CD. But otherwise,
All right, Jones. How you gonna find that statue and all this junk?
maybe just slightly better. Okay, so this is just like a point-and-click adventure kind of thing.
Poor Marcus. He thought this was a Maasai warrior. It's a medieval gargoyle, or a good imitation. It's a copy of an Egyptian statue of Horus. It's a copy of an Egyptian statue of Horus.
It doesn't look like I can do anything else. I can't change the cursor around. I don't think. Sometimes you could turn it into like a hand or a gun, you know. Yep. Well, there goes Indiana Jones. Dr. Jones.
Oof.
Oh, the credits. Why don't credits appear on all the things I've worked on in my life? This dinner brought to you by Kevin. Hey, before you eat that McDonald's, it was brought to you by Kevin. I don't work at McDonald's, but you know what I'm saying. Big crate.
The label says unidentified potsherds. label says unidentified potsherds. Looks like textiles from the Shaman collection.
Woo! Let's get the rope. Uh-oh. It's not having a good day. All right, let's try something else. I'll pause this one and we'll move on. There are 2 Indiana Jones games for this, and a Monkey Island. If you're into the Lucasfilm stuff, I had you covered here. Forgot what this is even called. Full Metal something. Mad Stalker, Full Metal Force. Looks like it might be like a fighting game. Looks like a brawler of some kind. Oh. What is going on? Crazy shit. Got all kinds of crazy weapons just showing up right in the world. Look out. I have no idea how that gun you. I'm just hitting the same button over and over. I'm moving the controller around. I have no idea what's making that gun go off or any of this shit. Meta. All right, we get the general gist of this one, so we'll move on from here. We got Marble Madness. This was, I believe this was in the arcade. You had a big roller ball, and you had to keep the marble on board. And it was on 8-bit systems going back to like the Commodore 64. You wouldn't have the analog control. You would use the standard joystick like I'm doing. But I think it was more of a challenge when you had like the trackball, because you had to kind of spin it to keep the ball, in play. And then this is just one of those titles that, I don't know, I don't think they ever really, I'm not as sure, but I don't think they ever followed up. Like, I don't think there was ever like a Marble Madness Extreme or anything, or Ultra or Marble Madness 2. There might have been. I just don't remember it. Which is surprising because it was fairly popular. A certain subset of people, that ball's a pain in my ass, really liked it. No. Look out for those guys. Eat your shit. Like, this kind of thing will just drive you nuts. It's not my cup of tea. Not that I drink tea. No! See what I'm saying? At least it doesn't start you all the way back to the beginning. Okay, let's pause that one and move on to the next one. So this is a Psygnosis title. Well, even they were making games on this thing. This is the Megamorph. Some video here. All right.
There's an emergency.
Yeah, all right. That's we don't need any of that. Intro. Do I have to pick? Game, yeah. Game, that's what we want. Is this like Cybermorph, but it's Megamorph? No, Cybermorph is like Atari. I think it's loading here. I got the green light. Green light's on. Seems to be loading. PC games of the 1990s. That's really all this is. It's interesting. Back then, though, if you wanted to have like a 386 system with a sound card and a VGA graphics card, probably a little hard drive, and a monitor and stuff, it was probably setting you back a couple grand back then, which was, a lot of money. But that's just how it was. So the fact that the Marty was $700 was more than a lot of game consoles, but in terms of like PC game system, not out of line, I would say, for what it could do. It was first system was CD, that booted from CD. Maybe, okay, Genesis with the Sega CD, but I think if you bought a Genesis and a Sega CD, or a JVC XI, let's say, I mean, that was still setting you back about $500. And we were still in a 32 or 64 color mode, maybe 64 color mode with that extra ASIC inside the CD system. So, yeah, I don't know. But at the end of the day, I mean, if people just wanted to play games, $700 was a lot of money. That's like 3DO money. That was crazy expensive. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to shoot at here. I'm assuming his head. Way too long. How does this guy die? You gotta get that red bar all the way down? Alright, I'm not doing that. It's gonna take forever. Let's move on to the next one. And this is a New Zealand story. This has been on a lot of different systems. I've never actually played it, but I've always seen it listed and on various platforms. I think it is just some kind of Mario type of thing that you can shoot or eat fruit. You think that's bad or good, that star thing? Bad. Figures. It looked kind of bad, right? Alright, that music's terrible. I don't know what's going on with that. Please don't play that music anymore. Please stop with the music. Let's go before the music comes back. Is that the kind of music they listen to in New Zealand? Oh my god. Alright. Let's move on. It's killing me. It's killing me. Okay, I'm going to round it out here with Dungeon Master. I have a few more titles. I have Castles 1, Castles 2. Dungeon Master Chaos Strikes Back. Kyriandia. I do want to try this. After this, we'll try the two official games I've got. The Draken and the other one that's over here. Let me go grab it. While this loads, because it's loading now. Loading time again. Game's gotta load, because they're old and can't get in the memory fast enough for us to play. So we have, Ms. Detective. In a giant box, which I don't know if all the original games came out in giant boxes like this, but whatever. We'll look at those two, and then we'll call it a day with the Marty system. Dungeon Master was pretty fun. You would build a dungeon And then heroes would come and fall victim to your traps and monsters and things that were in your dungeon. It was kind of like the reverse idea of being the adventurer. Instead of playing as the adventurer going into the dungeon, you controlled the dungeon and would try to stop the adventurers from getting your treasure or whatever, proceeding through. I don't know what it's doing though. This game is like still sealed or something. No way is this like an original seal on here. Somebody just like reapplied it. Data West. Makes you think like Data West, Data East. All right, so what am I doing here? I don't seem to be able to do anything else at the moment. I have to like find something. It's like a coat rack. I don't know what that was. Green slime on the ground. Oh, there's like some credits or something. You have come this far, but soon you will die in the dungeon. Alright. I guess I'm not going to push on anything anymore. It doesn't seem to be doing... Well, that looks like a button. Oh, it's a picture. Whoa. Oh. I guess I have him now. This is not the game I remember. It's like I'm assembling a party or something. I got my wizard, my warrior. Elf shot the food. Got an archer. No. Let's just go with S. Oh, hit the wall. And some kind of hobbit thing. Probably a thief. Or a, what do they call it? A cleric or something. Oh, there's another guy. Can't have 5 guys though, right? No. Haha, nothing for you, old man. Came to the party too late. Oh, there's lizard guy. So, I mean, this is just in the days of, now that we have first person, shooters and stuff, and this is so antiquated. I just want to see a monster come out. If there's a monster, it's going to instantly kill me, I'm sure. Ugh, all right. Let's move on from this one. Okay, so let's look at this Draken game. Now, interestingly enough, the this is Draken that I'm putting in now, but the Ms. Detective game, I've got the box here open for that one. And it actually comes with both a floppy disk and a game CD. And I think that's because the floppy disk, was obviously used as storage media. So you could, write your game saves down onto the disk and, progress in the game kind of thing. I have read, though, that you could also use some sort of SRAM, sort of like a compact flash memory, or an SD card, if you're not familiar with compact flash. Infograms. Draken. I think this is just going to be in Japanese, though. I believe I bought this from an American seller, so it's interesting that he had this game with it. And I think it's purely in Japanese. I think we played a similar title of this, or I did, on a different system. This perspective is very familiar to me. It's kind of like a first-person perspective before, games were doing this. And you go in here and you get like a quest, and then you got to go out and oh, you got killed by a fucking shark or something. What the hell? It's crazy. So do we fight that thing or what? It's the most ridiculous shit. Oh, that guy just drowned. This is awesome. That's this way I kill these guys. Alright, it's just you there, Barty guy. Alright, run for it. Oh, he's dead too. Okay. Alright, let's move on from that. Woo! God, man. Marty! I had a lot more patience when I was a young lad. So I'm going to put in this Ms. Detective disc and game. Now, hopefully this isn't some kind of XXX rated hentai. I've heard warnings that a lot of the games on the Marty are adults only, which is interesting because most of the problems that the FM Towns had selling to the mainstream was the fact that everybody thought it was a kid's computer because it was mostly used in schools. So the fact that then all this hentai or whatever it's called ended up on it, crazy. Now, is Data West related to Data East? Data East, Data West? You would think so, right? This is the first I've ever heard of Data West. Data West. Game drama series, Ms. Detective. This is the last one we're going to look at today. I'm sure it's a full motion video of some sort. It's all that mist stuff that was going on at the time. We can do video, but it's going to be really small and in the middle of the screen. But what are you going to do? They're doing it on CD, too. It's not DVD, it's CD. Oh, there's so much storage on CD. Oh, there's a body. And a shoe. In the sky. And some upbeat music. Okay. Oh.
おはよう。今日も元気かな？
Uh-huh. Alright, I don't even care. Let's go that way. Oh. Is that Miss Detective? Is that supposed to be me? Let's check the phone. Oh, she doesn't know who to call. It's off. I don't know who I should be calling. What's this? Is it like a DS? Oh, it's just a notepad. There's nothing in it. Well, that's bullshit. She needs a client. What's this here? She's got a lot of bullshit in her scrapbook, that's for sure. Right, we're not gonna look at those books. What else is going on in here? What is that? Well, it's just a light. She's like, I don't really want to go over here. Do I? Eat breakfast? What, is this another notebook? Oh, she's having a smoke. That was ridiculous. Huh. Stainless steel ashtray. Okay. Looks clean to me. Alright, let's get out. Can we get out of here? This is awful. Oh my god. This is killing me. All right, that's it for the Marty, everybody. I did my best. This is all I got to show you. More than some, but less than many others. Thanks for watching.